The SEC revealed the conference schedule on Tuesday, and there are some teams with very difficult roads ahead of them. But reigning regular season champion Tennessee, not so much.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, and you're joining me at the place to get your college hoops content every single day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for joining us to make this your first listen or first watch of the day, and we want to send a special shout out to all the everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. Welcome on in. So glad you're here. This episode is brought to you by Ultimate GM. The Ultimate College Football Head Coach is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, coming up on the show today, we're taking a look at the SEC schedules that came out on Tuesday. I'm going to give you the teams that I think, the three teams that I think have the hardest schedule and the three teams I think that have the easiest schedule. The Jimmy V Classic has been officially announced and revealed. Boy, I am excited for both of these matchups. We'll look at those. We've got some interesting National Player of the Year odds. One of them notably with Cooper Flagg missing, and also Duke is getting a visitor to Cameron that is all too familiar with that court. All right, let's start with this SEC slate. Everything came out on Tuesday. Yesterday on the show, Andy and Leaf came together, discussed some big picture topics, Cal returning to Kentucky, all sorts of stuff like that. And so today I'm going to drill down a little more. And what I want to do is look at all the schedules. I've done that already. And I want to give you what I think are the three hardest and three easiest that make up this 10-week schedule. And obviously, look, in this day and age, in the portal era, it's so insanely hard to truly know. But there are some things that seem more difficult than others and easier than others. So here's what we do and don't know. We do know the day almost that every game will happen. I'll explain that. But here's what we don't have yet: game times or the TV schedule. And also, while we have the Saturday games, we don't have the specificity of the majority of Tuesday, Wednesday games, whether they will be played on Tuesday or Wednesday. Keep in mind, those are the only 3 days the SEC plays: Saturday, and then Tuesday or Wednesday, you have a midweek game. Another reminder, while the other major conferences are all up to 20 game schedules, the SEC remains at 18 teams. There's 16 total teams now, Texas and Oklahoma. You play 6 home-only opponents, 6 road-only opponents, and 3 home and away opponents. That all adds up to 18. So because of that, think about the Big 12, the ACC, where you've got Big Monday. A lot of times you get quick turnarounds for these teams from Saturday to Monday. You don't have to worry about that in the SEC. Congratulations. All right. I teased off the top. I think Tennessee has a decently easy schedule on paper. I want to start by talking about the hardest schedules. And to me, the team that has it the hardest is the Florida Gators. Unfortunately for our guy, Brandon Olson, the great host of Locked On Gators. So Florida, listen to this. So 9 road games. They have to play at Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And the kicker is, of those 5 teams that they have to play only on the road, they only get one of them at home, and that's Tennessee. So that's tough, right? Like a lot of times it's like, yeah, we have to play them on the road, but at least we can get them at home. No, only Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky are road-only games. That is tough for Florida. Also, on the other end of it, it's like, all right, that's tough, but maybe they hooked us up with some other easier parts. Not really. For Florida, they only get to play Vanderbilt once, LSU once, Oklahoma once, and Mizzou once. Who knows? Again, you never know what will happen. Right now, I project those to be your bottom 4 SEC teams. And unfortunately for Florida, they only get each of them one time. So that's tough. Now, the one nice redeeming quality for Florida is they get Georgia and South Carolina twice, and I think they'll both be in the bottom half of the standings. But still, man, that is a rough schedule for Florida, both in terms of like who they have to play and where they play them, and then who they, only getting to play the weaker teams, seemingly weaker teams once. Second team, I think, has a pretty difficult schedule. We start with Florida, and then the next one I want to go to is Alabama, coming off that Final Four run. For Alabama, they have to play both Auburn and Kentucky twice. That ain't going to be much fun. And their other twice home and away team is Mississippi State, who I think should be kind of right in the middle of the pack this year. Here's the other thing for Bama, road only game. So Auburn and Kentucky twice, home and away. Road only, they got to go to Arkansas, don't get a return game, to Texas A&M, and to Tennessee. That is a daunting road slate for the Crimson Tide. And so that, that is always a big deal. So those are 4 very tough road only games, not to mention, again, Auburn and Kentucky, both home and away. So I think Alabama has a difficult schedule. And then the other school I'll give you that I think has one of the 3 toughest schedules is Vanderbilt. And a big part of this is because, like, if you're Alabama, for example, who you don't have to play? Alabama. Vandy, I think, will be at the bottom of the heap. And so they got to play everybody. So it's going to be a tough schedule. Their home and away opponents are Kentucky and Tennessee. Yikes. That's no fun that they'll have to do that. The nice thing is their other home and away team is Mizzou, who I don't think will be very good this year. But Vandy is only at Bama, Florida, and Texas A&M. They don't get them back at home. So, man, the good news for Vandy is they do get Arkansas and Auburn home only. But, I mean, it's just, if you're Vanderbilt, you just got to play a lot of really good teams, and you're not a really good team. So, kind of by nature, your schedule is going to look daunting. All right, so those are my 3 teams I think to have the hardest SEC schedules: Florida, Alabama, Vandy. Let me know your thoughts. Why do you disagree or differ on this? All right. Easiest as you look at this thing, I said, and it's obviously relative, right? Because all the SEC teams are pretty good. Tennessee, I think, has a decently easy schedule. In fact, I went and did some rough math. I took Torvik's projections for the SEC power rankings, and with the math that I used for that, along with Torvik's rankings, Tennessee, actually, my Excel spreadsheet that I made for it spit out that Tennessee has the easiest schedule. But beyond that, anecdotally, as I look at Tennessee, they do have Kentucky twice, the Vols do, but they also get Vandy twice, which is nice, and Florida twice. That's going to be tougher. I think Florida's going to have a good year. So, but it's not like they've got Kentucky and Alabama twice. That is helpful for the Vols. And the nice thing is Tennessee only has Alabama at home. That's a big win. And they also only have Arkansas at home. So you got some helpful things in the schedule there for Rick Barnes' club. And so that's nice. My next kind of easier schedule is Texas A&M, which, it's funny, man. The SEC is getting so Big 12ified now with all these schools that were once in the Big 12. For Texas A&M, you look at their 3 teams that they play twice. They get LSU twice. That's nice. They get Oklahoma twice. That's very nice. I project both of those teams to be in the bottom 4 of the SEC. And so for Texas A&M, who projects to be one of the contenders for the SEC crown, that's nice. And then their other 2-time team is Texas, who I think will be good and probably be in the upper 3rd of the SEC. But I don't think they're going to be, like Alabama, what I expect out of Alabama this year. And then beyond that for Texas A&M, Alabama, home only. Arkansas, home only. Auburn, home only. Tennessee, home only. So A&M has a very manageable slate of the teams they play twice. And those home only games, man, is really, really not bad at all. And so I think Texas A&M is in a good shape there. And then my third team that I think has a little bit of an easier slate is Auburn. Now, obviously, Auburn is going to have Alabama twice, and that's very difficult. I think Alabama is the best team in the SEC. But outside of that, Auburn, unfortunately, doesn't get any, just of the worst SEC teams twice, but they get Georgia twice and Ole Miss twice. I think they are, you know, probably in the 3/4 range of SEC, right? Like, I don't think they're going to float to the bottom, but I do think they're probably in that 8 to 11 range, maybe 12. And so that's fine. But also Auburn, Arkansas only have to play them at home. Florida only have to play them at home. Tennessee only have to play them at home. They do have to go play Kentucky and the Texases on the road, along with Alabama that we already mentioned. But listen to the rest of this road slate for Auburn. They get Georgia on the road, LSU on the road, Ole Miss on the road, South Carolina on the road, and Vandy on the road. That's something I'm always looking at is, obviously you'd like to play those teams both. But if you're only playing the easier teams once, I would rather that be on the road because it's a more manageable road environment typically. And so I think Auburn kind of lucks out there with who they only have at home and who they only have on the road. And so that should be a good harbinger of things to come for Bruce Pearl's team. Also, that's it for the hard and easy. So my easy schedules, easier schedules: Tennessee, Texas A&M, Auburn. The more difficult ones: Florida, Bama, and Vandy. One of the funny things is, as I looked at Oklahoma's schedule, as you look at the 3 teams that they play twice, it's the Big 12iest thing I've ever seen. Oklahoma plays Mizzou twice, Texas twice, and Texas A&M twice. So it's like, all right, what's up, Big 12? How you doing? Come on in. All right, now we just talked about Tennessee. Tennessee is going to take a trip up to Madison Square Garden in December to take part in this year's Jimmy V Classic, and it is a fun field. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Ibotta. The summer is almost over, but there's still lots of folks waiting to take that dream end of summer vacation, but they might be dreading the cost because things are so expensive right now. Here's the good news. With Ibotta, you get cash back on all your purchases, so you can spend more time making memories at the end of this summer and less time dreaming about them. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. You can earn on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies, man, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. How about this? The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeballing to take, or that fancy dinner that you've been craving. So it's time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, in fact, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying it out by using code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free app, and start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Once again, that's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. On Wednesday, we got the official announcement about all the details surrounding this year's Jimmy V Classic. This is coming up on Tuesday, December 10th. So obviously we got several months away from this. It's kind of in the mid-ish point of the non-conference slate for most teams. But here are the 2 matchups. I'm very excited about these. The earlier game, Miami, Florida version, against Tennessee, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, both games on ESPN, oh, by the way. And then the nightcap, really intrigued by this one as well. Michigan against Arkansas. That'll come at approximately 9 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, it depends on the ending of the first game for that. This game, these games, will be at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. And look, last year, the teams that were in this event, Illinois, FAU, UConn, UNC. I mean, it was a great slate, and neither game was particularly close, but I love the 4 teams in it. What's kind of funny about that is, remember, I said FAU was in it. That means with FAU in it last year, Michigan in it this year, that means that Dusty May is coaching in this event for the 2nd straight year. That's pretty crazy to me. All right, let's start with the first game, Miami and Tennessee. The first thing that jumps out to me about this is it's 2 coaching legends, Coach Jim Larrañaga at Miami and then Coach Rick Barnes at Tennessee, both at the kind of the twilight of their career, we expect. We don't have anything firm and foundational, but they're certainly not at the beginning of their career. But this is just 2 guys who are doing things well and right. Obviously, as you look at the Miami side of it, they did not have the year they wanted to have last year, coming off of back-to-back Elite Eights, one of which went on to the Final Four in a game in which, quite frankly, they probably should have won. And so what I'm curious about is, will we get the Miami we've been accustomed to previous to last year, or will we see the Miami team we saw last year? It's really interesting with both Miami and Tennessee. They've both lost several key pieces. Think about it with Tennessee. Obviously, Dalton Knecht is the biggest name there, but also Jonas Adu to Arkansas, Josiah Jordan-James, Santiago Vescovi. Those guys are all gone for one reason or another, either through transfer portal or just done with college. But Miami, too. Wooga Poplar off to Villanova. Norchad Omier now at Baylor. Keyshawn George, Bensley Joseph, gone. But as you would imagine, both of these teams have also retooled and reloaded. As for Tennessee, a lot of Tennessee fans are like, man, Jonas Adu, I liked him, but he was soft. Well, they've now brought in Felix Okpara from Ohio State to replace Adu, and that softness will not be an issue with Okpara. Also, bringing in Chaz Lanier from North Florida, Darlin Stone Dubar from Hofstra, some scoring options, some scoring punch to hopefully try to help, just bringing in some dudes to help replace that scoring that Knecht left behind. As for Miami, they bring in stud freshman Jalil Bethea. Lynn Kidd comes over from Virginia Tech. Brandon Johnson from East Carolina, I think, will be good. And AJ Staten McCray from Samford. We know that kind of run that they went on last year. So, yes, both teams lose pieces, but both teams bring some back. But it's also interesting because both teams have their point guard back. Nigel Pack, he of Life Wallet NIL fame, is back for Miami. And Zakai Ziegler back for Tennessee. A further year removed from that injury, which to me typically is the year where you're actually going to be back to your prime form. So both these teams are going to have their ringleader back, and that's a big deal. I think critically for Miami, though, is how Matthew Cleveland plays. We'll say it this way, he was not Jordan Miller replacement level when he came over last year from Florida State. Jordan Miller, who had been out the year before, was so good for Miami, and Cleveland just never got there. But, one of the things we've talked a lot about this offseason is how second transfers in their second year at a school, if they get there, they just kind of take off. I'm curious to see if Cleveland does that this year. All right, let's go to the second game, the nightcap. Oh, by the way, in that game, give me Tennessee to win. But the nightcap, Michigan versus Arkansas, I think this one's full of even more really intriguing storylines. First off, obviously, these are two teams that are completely overhauled. Michigan losing Juwan Howard, now Dusty May in. Arkansas, Eric Musselman's out the door. Here comes John Calipari. And so that makes this a really intriguing coaching matchup between Dusty May and Coach Cal. And part of that is, I know Coach Cal wound up in Fayetteville at Arkansas, but remember, there was a point where there was at least some level of rumor of, would Coach Cal take a call from Michigan if Juwan's out the door? So that's part of the intrigue here. And of course, we get Dusty May versus his former star guard, John L. Davis, who should be a stud for Arkansas this year. And that means that John L. Davis is going to play against his former teammate in this game, Vlad Golden, who went with Dusty May up to Michigan. Now, I know that Arkansas is not playing Tennessee, obviously, but Tennessee is going to be in the building. Arkansas is going to be in the building. That means Jonas Adu is going to be in the same building with the Vols. And let's not forget, as I believe Andy and Leaf talked about yesterday, Arkansas's first SEC game this year is at Tennessee. So Adu will be going back to Knoxville as well. He's just going to be around Tennessee more than he bargained for. Here's the other thing with this game. I want to see both of these teams just go massive in the front court. I want Jonas Adu and Zvonimir Ivicic on the floor at the same time for Arkansas. Heck, throw Trevon Brazile in there at the three. No, they won't do that. But I would love to see some combination of two of those guys in there at the same time. And same for Michigan. I still am of the mind that Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden can play together and be the front court for Michigan. So that's actually not that crazy to me. But I want to see at least some minutes of this game where Michigan has both Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf in, and Arkansas has both Jonas Adu and Zvonimir Ivisic in. Come on, Coach Cal. Come on, Coach May. Give me those matchups. All right. So that's Jimmy V Classic. Again, coming up on Tuesday, December 10th. Oh, and I didn't give you a winner for that one. Give me Arkansas in that game, meaning the SEC sweeps these two games. Down in Durham, North Carolina, there is one of the very best freshmen. Many expect maybe even to contend for the Player of the Year nationally, not just Freshman of the Year. But one of the interesting things is that I just noticed on Wednesday that there's a site that has odds for Cooper Flagg and another that doesn't. And so I just wanted to take a little early look at National Player of the Year odds. And then we got some other information about Duke as well while we're talking Cooper Flagg. All that coming up in just a second. Right after I take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you Locked On College basketball fans are going to love as much as I do, the Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of your favorite team? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. You going to be able to handle that pressure? And I really love that you're responsible for calling the offensive plays in this game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your season, but also will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free. It has no ads and is 100% playable offline. So you can play on the go anytime. And of course, we have a special offer for all you Locked On College basketball fans. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of that perk. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or just look it up on one of the app stores. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. Obviously, here at the Locked On Podcast Network, we are sponsored by FanDuel, and so I'm not going to mention other betting sites by name because FanDuel pays the bills and those other ones don't. But I noticed on Wednesday that one of the other ones they might have put it out on Wednesday, but at least recently put out their Wooden Award betting odds. And I want to give you their top 10. Number 1, Cooper Flagg plus 400. Number 2, Hunter Dickinson, Kansas plus 500. Number 3, RJ Davis of North Carolina plus 600. Number 4, Mark Sears of Alabama plus 800. And then look, that is your top 4. After that, there is a massive drop off at this site's odds because after Mark Sears, it goes to AJ Storr of Kansas plus 1,600. So we go from plus 800 to plus 1,600. LJ Cryer of Houston plus 2,000. John L. Davis, who we just talked about, plus 2,800. 7th odds. 8th best odds, Janai Broom from Auburn plus 3,300. And then tied for 9th is Caleb Battle at Gonzaga and VJ Edgecombe of Baylor, both at plus 3,300. Now, here's why this is intriguing to me. When you go to FanDuel, there are no odds for Cooper Flagg. And that to me is, yes, I am a cheesy dad, odd. Number 1, the best odds, Hunter Dickinson, Kansas, plus 550. Second best odds, tied, are Mark Sears of Alabama and RJ Davis at plus 600 of North Carolina. And then same thing from there, it just drops off a cliff. Caleb Love from Arizona and Janai Broom from Auburn are tied for 4th at plus 1,600. Marquette's Cam Jones, 6th at plus 2,200. And then you get your first freshman, but it's not Cooper Flagg. Tied for 7th is VJ Edgecombe, who's going to be a phenomenal freshman at Baylor. Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton, Hunter Salas, who came back to Wake Forest, and LJ Cryer, who we talked about at the other side. They're all at plus 3,000. So again, there's a big demarcation line after Dickinson, Sears, and RJ Davis. But what's curious to me is that our friends at FanDuel don't have Cooper Flagg on this list. But it's not like they're not including freshmen because VJ Edgecombe from Baylor is on this list. So I would like to run it up the flagpole and say, hey, why aren't we getting Cooper Flagg odds? you got to think there would be a lot of movement on it. And maybe that's the thing is FanDuel's like, yeah, we're not really sure how we want to handicap him yet until we see it in action. I don't know what it is. And I've not been told anything about why his name's not on there, but it just strikes me as very interesting. So the other thing is you've got some big differences between these two sites, between FanDuel and the other one I mentioned. For example, Caleb Battle was tied for 9th at the other one, plus 3,300 odds. At FanDuel, at our site, he has plus 17,000 odds. That's crazy high. Or at FanDuel, Cam Jones has the 6th best odds to win the Wooden Award at plus 2,200. At this other site, he's plus 8,000. So much, much longer odds there. And then there's some others, but those were the two most striking differences. So, it's such a crapshoot this time of year because you're thinking about role. Do they have better players around them so they're not going to score as much? Voter fatigue. All of these things play a factor in it. So it's a very inexact science, but it is telling to me that there's a clear drop off at both of these sites after Hunter Dickinson, RJ Davis, and Mark Sears. And at the other site, Cooper Flagg is also in that top group. But it's a massive cliff. So if you believe in one of these guys, it's a little bit further down the list, or maybe one that has vastly different odds at one side or the other, seems like it could be a really neat opportunity. As always, there's going to be guys that jump onto this list that are not even on our radar right now. It's like, oh, this guy's going to be the player of the year. If I had asked you Dalton Connect this time last year, there's no way you would have said him unless you're like a diehard Northern Colorado or Tennessee fan who just saw it coming, right? Like I expected him to be good, but that was crazy. So there's that as well. Now, we were talking about Cooper Flagg with this thing, and that's a great segue to talking about a fun announcement that we got on Wednesday. Arizona State is going to travel to Duke to play in a charity exhibition on October 27th, with proceeds going to Duke Children's Hospital. I love this because this is two head coaches that are both former Duke players. Obviously, John Shire leading the Blue Devils, and Bobby Hurley, not Danny, is the head coach at Arizona State. This game will be played at Cameron Indoor Stadium. And look, I love that Bobby Hurley's coming home for this thing. Really neat graphic that Duke men's basketball account put out, just with both Coach Hurley and Coach Shire on there currently, but then a picture of them, in their time playing at Duke, and just really neat imagery. And I love these kind of things because it's getting a couple high major programs together for a public exhibition. It's also doing it for a good cause. And it's also like this one's cool because there's the clear and obvious tie-in of Coach Bobby Hurley coming back to a place where he means a lot to a lot of people. Bobby Hurley is was a phenomenal point guard. And so great stuff. Now, you know what? Maybe you forget Bobby Hurley. Here's what I actually want to know out of this thing. I want to know which variety of devil is actually more intimidating, the blue devil variety or the sun devil variety. So I'd love you to pitch to me which one of those you think is the more hardcore, the more intimidating, the blue or the sun of the devil family. So that'll be fun to watch. And also, I want more of these events, right? Like another example we just recently learned about is Purdue is going to Creighton. Good on Matt Painter for taking Purdue on the road for this. The day before, or a couple days before, this will be on October 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern. I guess actually just the day before. This one will benefit the United Way of the Midlands Disaster Relief Fund from those tornadoes that affected the Omaha area earlier this year. And remember, this is not the first time Purdue's done this. They traveled last year to Arkansas to play at Bud Walton Arena. It kind of got rocked in that game, but it's an exhibition. It doesn't matter. It turned out Arkansas wasn't that great. Turned out Purdue was really great. And so, like Matt Painter, I love that he's doing this. And just while we're talking about these charity exhibitions, NCAA, let these happen, right? Like we've seen other examples of this where the NCAA said, no, you can't do that. And so, man, as long as it's in good faith, which they're going to be, let these happen, NCAA. You got to think the NCAA wants to engender some level of goodwill in this world. letting these exhibition games happen would be a glorious way to do that. Anyway, there you go. So very excited. Arizona State at Duke. We're also going to get Purdue at Creighton in some public exhibitions ahead of the season. Just about a week ahead, actually, because we start on November 4th. That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in with me. If you haven't subscribed on video and audio, make sure you do that so that you don't miss a second of Locked On College Basketball. If you haven't joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord family, we'd love to have you in there. The link for it's in the show notes. It's absolutely free to join. Come talk college basketball with us every single day of the week. Want to remind you, we just talked about Purdue. Apologies to the lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats. We've talked about several of them on the show today. We'll be back tomorrow, Andy Patton and myself. But until then, peace.